Good morning. Thank you so much for having me here as well. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my watch brand, Void Watches. So first of all, my name is David Ericsson. I'm originally from Sweden, and as we already mentioned, my background is in engineering, and which strikes people a little bit odd sometimes because I run a very design-focused company, but there's a reason for me getting onto that path. So after graduating from a pretty tough engineering education, I got my first job for a design company in Sweden called Zenit Design. When I started there, we were about 10 people. Now they're one of the biggest design agencies in Sweden, working with lots of big brands. So I come from a very product-focused background. For me, it's all about the product, and the business side of it is kind of the stuff I have to do to be able to design more products. So there's a few examples here. The first one is a medical device. It's used for analyzing blood. It's with a Swiss company, and that was one of my first projects. The other one is a flat-screen monitor that we did for a Swedish-based company. This is pretty much a 10-year-old project. So back in those days, flat-screen monitors weren't as common as they are now. So, and we also did a lot of architectural fittings, lights, furniture, things like that. So very traditional product design. But after working for a year for that company, learning a lot. I think I was there for 3 years, actually. I was approached by a Hong Kong-based company. It's a Swedish-managed Hong Kong-based company that did accessories for the cell phone industry, and they wanted to branch out into doing more launch campaigns. That we help basically big cell phone manufacturers to do launch campaigns around the world whenever they had a new product launch. So I was employed for a year with them here in Hong Kong, doing mainly point-of-sale solutions for LG and Samsung. But after a year, we decided to move our office into Guangdong in China. I wasn't that keen on moving into mainland China, so I thought I might as well take a leap and start my own thing, which had been brewing in my mind for quite a long time. So that brings us back to Void Watches, and I'm gonna tell you the story about the brand with kind of a product focus, because for me, it all starts with the product. So back in 2008, I decided to start my own thing, and I knew I wanted to design something. I knew I wanted to produce a physical object. I didn't want to work in services because I've been doing design consultancy for the last couple of years. There's also a limit to how many hours. As a product designer, when you work as a consultant, there's a limit to how many hours you can spend per week. Even if you work day and night, there's still only a limited amount of time. And products scale in a different, there's not really any maximum amount of products that we can produce. So the potential is fantastic. So I wanted to create something simple and different at the same time. And that's actually one of the biggest challenges when you design things, to make something very unique with very simple geometries, simple design. And you can see here on the screen what I came up with. And why watches? That's the most common question I get. And first of all, I think it's fun. I love watches. It's a really fun industry to be in. But also from a business perspective, watches is a pretty perfect item because it has a high perceived value. It has a high value density. That means it's quite small and it still sell for quite a reasonable amount of money. So if I love chairs as well, for instance. But if I would make 1,000 chairs, I would need to hire a warehouse. And if someone buys a chair from the US and I have to ship it from Hong Kong, that's a lot of work. So a watch is very convenient. It has good margins, and as I mentioned, simple logistics. So there's a lot of things speaking for watches, but I think I want to stress the first point here. I think it's fun. I love watches. So 5 years ago to the day almost, I did the first launch campaign. I teamed up with a big design blog based in the UK called The Scene. So on the 11th of November 2008, we launched this first watch. The year after, I came up with a new concept based on pretty much the same design, because the first one was very well received, and I kind of wanted to follow up on that. So I came up with this rather quirky looking time display that uses actually a standard watch movement, but it has two different compass needle hands, which means that both hands has a white tip and a red tip, and you have to, on that little dial that I'm not sure if you can see it, but it has a double set of numbers, so you have to match the color of the tip with the color of the number. So in this position, the watch is 1 o'clock, and then as the watch keep turning, the hands alternate between red and white. So here you see 8 o'clock, and here it's 10 past 11. So a bit of a quirky design, but it's eye-catching, and it's been doing really well for us, actually. And then it was a gap here for about 3 years, because after launching these two watches, we got a lot of good response. We started to work with more shops. We were building up distribution, and I was too busy to actually design things. So I had a couple of years here just running the business, basically, and where I didn't have the time to focus on design. I guess that's a good thing and a bad thing at the same time. But finally, in 2012, we launched a completely new range of round watches. I remember having a conversation with a friend of mine as a retailer based in China, and he was pointing out that, that 95% of the market is, round watches. People don't buy square watches, and at that point, I only ever designed the square watches for the brand. And he was right. When we launched this watch in 2012, our turnover doubled overnight. Our month-to-month turnover doubled. And fortunately, since the start of 2008, we doubled our revenue every year on a year-to-year basis. So we're moving in the right direction. So this watch both these watch designs are pretty platform-based. They're made to be able to do a lot of variations. So this is our simplest line that also comes in a lot of different colorways. When you run a small company, you kind of have to be a little bit smart when planning your productions, because as you can see on the bottom row here, they all have the same watch case, they all have the same hands, but they have a lot of different colors of the face and strap, and those components are fairly cheap compared to the overall cost of the product. So when you work with a small budget, you kind of have to be a little bit clever when you do your production and product design. So 2012, we did a whole range of watches. This is a chronograph. This is a 3-hand date version of the watch. They're all priced at roughly $130 US to $450 US. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about our latest ones as well. This one comes out later this week, actually, so that makes me a little bit excited. This is our first ever mechanical watch, based on a Japanese movement from Miyota. Fully automatic. It's our highest price point so far, so I quite look forward to see how that is received in the market. And the last one I wanted to show you is a plastic watch. So this year we're actually doing our most expensive and also making our cheapest watch in kind of our attempt to capture a slightly bigger piece of the market. So this is a plastic watch. It's made in injected molded plastic, one piece, and it has a rather clever function to it. We can slide in the strap without using any tools, and it's a fully adjustable strap length. You can change the battery with a coin. This is kind of because based on feedback we receive on our current products, there's a lot of technical questions. How do I change my strap? How do I change the battery? So we kind of approach these problems already at the product design stage and try to be one step ahead of the end user. The beautiful thing with this watch is also that we can make a lot of color combinations. We actually can put together 512 different colors in our range by just switching cases, straps around between the different product lines. And this is the full range we have today. We actually have even more. I couldn't fit more on the page. So the business side of things, we have basically 3 tiers of sales. We do direct sales on our website based here in Hong Kong, so we do all shipping, logistics in Hong Kong. We do wholesale to about 120 retailers around the world, and we have distribution in 9 countries. And we continuously try to grow these kind of sales platforms. Luckily, we receive emails pretty much weekly with new stores that want to sell our products. Some of the examples is that we work this year. We started to work in MoMA. We work with the Conrad shop in London, Paris. We do work with Bon Marché, Paris, and a couple of other. We also done some in-flight sales with local airlines, Cathay Pacific, Dragonair, and yeah, the list could be made much longer. We also rely quite heavily on doing international PR, so we try to work a lot with international press. Luckily, they also contact us, so we've been quite fortunate this year in having a lot of good international press. I think these are some of the good ones that came up. GQ is a company we've been working with quite a lot over this year and hopefully continue to work with next year. And for a small brand, I think we don't have the budget to advertise, so we rely quite heavily on editorial content. And as long as we keep producing interesting product, I think that's going to work out. And we have some future plans as well. Of course, the main brand we do is Void watches, but we're also planning to introduce some different price lines. That's the Son and the Volt projects, which are cheaper product lines under different brand names to capture different parts of the market. We're also planning to launch a multi-brand web store under the name yournextwatch.com, and also co-own a separate fashion accessories company that will focus more on timepieces in the future. So utilizing the same kind of network that I built up over the last 5 years or so. So we'll see how that goes. It's quite exciting. It's a fun business to be in. And I think that was all I had for today. So thank you so much.